Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Ohio, Konnichiwa, Konbanwa. Welcome to Wrestle In. I'm Kieran RH, and I'm joined by one of the newest members of the United Empire and the New Japan roster. He made his debut back in September, and he's barely left Japan since. The orchestrator of the United Empire, Lord Gideon Grey himself. Gideon, thanks for joining me for this interview.
It's my pleasure. I promise you that much. Thank you very much.
So I think the first time I saw you wrestle was at Rev Pro High Stakes 2015. It was against Matt Classic, better known now as Colt Cabana.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen you probably every York Hall show in some capacity since, whether you're managing or you're in the ring or you're on commentary. Never in my wildest fantasy booking dreams did I envision that Gideon Grey would be in Japan competing in a New Japan ring. What's the experience been like these past few months for you?
Well, as a combination of a few schemes that I've had in the work for a long time, it's been very rewarding. It's a surreal experience. Obviously, the level of competition over here is bar none the best I've ever seen and faced. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. The country itself is wonderful. Going to see everything is pretty spectacular. But no, it's been a positive, very positive experience so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know I have, and other fans have been enjoying your antics to say the least. What since you've got on that plane, but after some teasing from Will Ospreay, you were unveiled as the newest member of the United Empire, and you've quickly become an integral part of the group. You're doing all the introductions. You're always at ringside. You're very active on Twitter, promoting all the boys. How did the conversation start for you joining the United Empire? Were you invited into the fold by Will?
Well, the conversation started a long time ago. Well, 2 years ish ago. Shortly before some actions were taken by Will. Obviously, he's been in the UK scene for quite some time, so I've seen him around here and there. And yeah, I had a chat with him backstage at a particular retro event that I won't go into. And yeah, well, there was a slight connection made there, which may have laid the groundwork for things to come in the future. But it was really a combination of that meeting and the experience with Great O'Khan when he came over to the UK that, shall we say, paved the way for me to come out here and see how I can help the Empire.
So it's not something new. It's been in the works for a long time, perhaps delayed a little bit due to the pandemic, but the plan was always Gideon Grey was going to be part of the United Empire.
Well, not necessarily a active member of the United Empire, but I've been involved in some way since
Hmm.
the shall we say.
Yeah, well, for me, the United Empire have been like the group of the year, especially in New Japan. Will Ospreay's my wrestler of the year, US champion, started off the year at Tokyo Dome. Catch 2 have rejuvenated the junior tag division. They're doing wonders for that at the moment as the champions. Aaron Hanari made his G1 debut. Great O'Khan has become a hero for his antics outside the ring and his heroics outside the ring. And, two-time tag champ along with Jeff Cobb. Aussie Open finally, long overdue in Japan, kicking ass in World Tag League right now. Um, you know, how does United, considering the year United Empire have had, how do they top it? How do they go above and beyond to 2023?
So you're also forgetting Jeff Cobb's wonderful, wonderful backstage comments every single time.
Yes.
But topping it is, it's been a banner year. There's no doubt about it. But you're looking at a faction that has literally the best male wrestlers of any time period, of any classification, the best juniors, the best heavyweights, the best tag teams, everything. The
Hmm.
complete, rounded, just best faction that has ever existed. And if only one banner year is going to happen, then that would be that'd be a travesty. So I'm absolutely confident that moving forward there will be a year after year of just incredible stuff from the United Empire.
Well, I listed off all their accolades, but for the first time, you were all together a couple of months ago. The Osaka show, Battle Autumn, you celebrated it by you done the really cool photo shoots and videos walking down Osaka, all in the matching suits and ties. What was that day like? Did you have lots of people that did know who you are, making a fuss, and then people like just knowing you were a big deal by the fact you were walking around looking like just total badasses?
So it's very weird out here. Obviously, New Japan Pro Wrestling is shown on Samurai TV. It's shown on Asahi TV. I
Yep.
cannot pronounce the words of things correctly for my life, but it's shown and watched by so many people in Japan. So even before Osaka, the first time I came out here, I was on the Samurai show once, just one time. We traveled from there to the middle of nowhere, really, kind of like Luton, if you want to put it in the UK.
Yeah.
And got off the private bus they've got for the United Empire, walked down the street, found a local convenience store, and as I was walking along, people were walking past, throwing up the crowns.
Wow.
As I'm walking past, I'm like, this is the weirdest thing in the world. So yeah, Osaka was a special night. There's a lot of people that recognized us as we were walking about, a lot of people that showed us all due respect, which was very welcome. But yeah, it was the end of a very long day. Some incredibly talented photographers came along with us, and yeah, it was an absolutely phenomenal experience.
Well, I don't know if it was the same day as well, but you also done your World Cup for your World Cup shirt. You filmed some video footage, an awesome, like, I don't know, video package of the whole team playing football to promote the shirt you've got for the World Cup, which is available on New Japan shop. It's absolutely awesome. What was that like playing football with the guys? Was anybody surprisingly good, and was anybody surprisingly awful?
So for people that had never really played football before, Hamilton's probably surprisingly good at football.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff also surprisingly good at football. Little Francesco Akira is the most competitive person you will meet in your life. Like, it does not matter if it's a friendly game of basketball before a show to warm up, or a game of football where you're just warming up before filming. He will go 110% in full Italian rage mode to show that he can do things well. He's absolutely incredible, just energy to him that is sometimes hard to keep up with. But yeah, he absolutely blasts it every single time he can. Fantastic guy.
The Fireball
yeah,
name rings true, clearly.
Yeah, it's not just a moniker. Let's put it like that.
How would United Empire fare if they actually entered the World Cup, do you think?
I mean, with so my whole thing, and I analyze situations, so I can only answer truthfully. I don't like lying to people. But obviously, you're talking about two incredibly different sports: professional wrestling, football. In the World Cup, where you've got elite players of football or soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, you are not going to stand much of a chance as people that have trained in a completely different sport. If you wanted to combine the two, professional wrestling and football, we'd wipe the floor with anyone. But football alone, I'd say, the other team's got a fairly good chance.
You're not writing United Empire totally off.
No, absolutely not. You can never write anyone completely off. Look at Japan. A lot of people in the world are shocked at how well they're doing right now, and that's even here, people have been saying, I can't believe how well Japan are doing. It's like, you don't seem to understand the quality of coaching that has come over to this country in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and just how much emphasis has been put on improving. So even though Europe is the soccer or football like haven, so to speak, for the world, countries like Japan have an incredible fighting chance at the international level, just because of the quality that's coming into and out of the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So at Wrestle Kingdom, to move away from football, wrestling, for what it is. what we're talking about. So at Wrestle Kingdom, we're likely going to see Catch 2-2 defend their tag titles. Other members of the United Empire, I'm sure, will be on the card, but nothing's been officially announced yet for the United Empire, other than, of course, Will Ospreay defending his IWGP US Heavyweight Championship against Kenny Omega. You've been making all the in-ring introductions for United Empire across the Super Juniors and Tag League Tour. Can we expect you to be doing an introduction for Will Ospreay in the Tokyo Dome? And considering the occasion, can we expect anything special at a grand fashion Gideon Grey introduction worthy of the Tokyo Dome in the occasion?
Let's say if the opportunity presents itself for me to have the privilege of going to the Tokyo Dome and introducing anyone from the United Empire, be it Will Ospreay in his match against, I forget who Will's fighting. Be it in that match or be it in Catch 2-2 defending their junior tag team championships, or be it, let's face it, it's going to be All United Empire finale at World Tag League. That's just what's going to happen. So it's either going to be Okan and Hanare or Aussie Open facing FTR. So if there's the opportunity for me to do something special for the guys while I'm there, or if I'm there, then absolutely there will be a introduction of appropriate gravitas. If there's an opportunity for myself to be involved in, say, the Rambo, for example, then we'll see how I'm feeling after the match.
Oh, I want to see you. I want to see you in the Rambo now, assuming that happens this year. I'm very interested in that. And you joke, but of course it's Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega. They've got lots of history. There's lots of animosity there. I was lucky enough to interview Ospreay earlier in the year, and he was didn't hold back. Let's say he was very critical in his words to Omega in our interview. But what are your thoughts on that match? Given the history, the occasion, the fact it's the Tokyo Dome, and all this animosity they've got, what do you think going into this Ospreay and Omega match?
So again, I analyze situations. There is no doubt that the Will Ospreay Kenny Omega match is going to be something that has never been seen before. Without hyperbole, there is every chance that it will be the greatest wrestling match ever to happen. You've got two diametrically opposed forces going into this match. You've got two once in a lifetime. Like, we are so lucky to be alive and watching wrestling in 2022, even with everything that's happened in recent years. It's the quality and craftsmanship of just the performers and the sportsmen that are alive now. There has never been anything like this. You want to talk about your Frank Gotches, you want to talk about your Billy Robertsons, you want to talk about all of these legends in the field before today. None of them would hold a candle or a flame to people that are active now. Even outside of Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, you have so many just insanely talented people. But those two just surpassing everything in wrestling. There is not words to describe what they can do. Wrestling God gets thrown around so much. Both those have transcended godhood, right? You are looking at the two best wrestlers anywhere on the planet coming together, hating each other, and wanting to show that they're better than each other. And Will Ospreay isn't even at his best yet. You see Will Ospreay, you watch his matches with Okada, right? Mm-hmm. And you see that there is self-confidence. There is an issue there. He's trying to rely on the moves that have beaten Okada in the past. He's trying to rely on things that other people have done that have beaten Okada in the past. And he's not believing in Will Ospreay beating Okada in the present. And this is something I've said to Will. This isn't just new, right? Will is the best wrestler to ever have lived. And he's only going to get better. Okay? You want to talk about steel sharpening steel. this match, no matter how it goes, is going to see both people come out of it sharper than they went in. And that is incredibly exciting to me.
Ooh, damn, if you aren't excited for that match now, after that, Gideon, Jesus, man, that should get anyone pumped. Once as soon as that match happened, I literally got on my laptop and was like, "How much are flights to Japan?" And they're outrageous for us at the moment. I've got a wedding coming up. Yeah, I cannot swing it. I've been lucky enough to do Japan a few times in the past. I don't think I can swing it. But Kenny Omega and Ospreay is the match that would have gotten me on a plane, were they not, like £1,500.
It is once in a lifetime. But, yeah.
I won't say that. Convince my fiance. You were part of historic crossover. You picked up the win over LIJ alongside United Empire, but you wasn't involved in any of the mixed genders matches. You weren't involved with the Stardom side of things. I asked this question to Will Ospreay, and he, of course, mentioned Azumi because they've got a great relationship together. And I'm not sure how strong your Stardom knowledge is. But are there any members of the Stardom roster that you would like to see join United Empire in the future?
This is one that I'm going to dance around. I have always been a person to be somewhat of a schemer, somewhat to have tentative plans here and there, and I don't want to say anything more about that. But I will say that I thought Waka was absolutely fantastic on commentary.
Yeah,
and I feel there is a true friendship that could be built there.
Yeah, so, she was a big fan of you on commentary, wasn't she? She done a great job considering the language for her, especially. She was in the main event. She really had a lot because she got so emotionally invested into it. But another crossover show that took place earlier this year. You weren't part of New Japan officially at the time, maybe behind the scenes scheming, as you said. But of course, Forbidden Door, New Japan clashed with AEW. Are there any wrestlers from AEW that you would either like to see join United Empire, or alternatively, because I don't think there is anyone that you would necessarily like, anyone you'd like to see the United Empire beat up in the middle of the ring?
So, where to begin? All right. There's a reason I'm in New Japan rather than any American promotion. So they're fantastic. They're wonderful. They're great. Oh. AEW, bless them. They're a tremendous company. They brought in Will, they brought in the Aussies, and they treated them like royalty, which should be expected. But there are, some names there that I would like to see in competition with the United Empire. Nobody that I'd see joining the United Empire, shall we say.
Who would you like to see them in competition with?
Well, you've got, Catch 2-2 would be fantastic against anybody there. Because they're Catch 2-2. They're just fantastic. From a personal stance, I'd love to get in the ring with Danielson, who wouldn't learn a lot of that British style and took that back with him. So to test his knowledge on that would be quite fun. You've got Moxley, who's an absolute killer in the ring. Love to see him go up against Hinare. I think that'd be a very, very interesting matchup. Yeah, there's names. If they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't.
Well, now I never considered Gideon Grey versus Bryan Danielson until now. We need to make that happen somehow.
Listen, it'll be an interesting game to play with him. I'll say that much.
Well, I'm putting out there. I'm going to get a hashtag going. But you've gotten to spend lots of time with United Empire allies now, or your brothers. So I'm going to quickly rattle off everyone from the United Empire, and I want you to describe them all in just one word. So we'll kick off with the founder, Will Ospreay.
Savant.
Great O'Khan.
Heavenly.
Jeff Cobb.
Wonderful.
Aaron Hanare.
Powerful.
Kyle Fletcher.
Uh, there is no better word to describe Kyle than Australian. And if you understand,
Well, now what about Mark Davis?
a bear,
TJP
uh, masterful,
and the fiery Francesco Akira, as we've discovered.
fireball. Let's be honest here. Like, there's no more apt word for Francesco than fireball.
Well, you've just called him heavenly, but your relationship with Great O'Khan goes back to when he was on excursion in England years ago. I was lucky enough to send a few questions across New Japan earlier this year, and he said how about his time in the UK he has especially has gratitude for you whilst he was over here. So how is it being reunited with him now? After you helped him out whilst he was in the UK and he was part of the Legion, of course, in Rev Pro.
Yeah. So Great O'Khan is a one of a kind athlete. There is no other way of putting it. You've seen his work outside the ring. He is so humble about the good he has put into the world, which is incredibly rare to see. He is by far the best example of a human being I could imagine having the privilege to meet. And it is an honor being able to be around him again. When he came over to England, he was already a genius at wrestling. He knew exactly who he was, who he wanted to be, and how to achieve everything he could possibly dream of achieving in wrestling. And it's been my absolute delight to be able to even attempt to help him reach the lofty heights that he so thoroughly deserves. I cannot say enough good things about the Great O'Khan.
Do you think you could keep up with and hang with Great O'Khan if he hits Las Vegas again?
I'm I've led an interesting life, shall we say. Could Great O'Khan keep up with me? If we're talking drinking,
Oh,
Great O'Khan absolutely beats me hands down. He has 7 stomachs. It's fully documented. I've never seen a human being consume as much food or anything than him. He is it's a sight to behold. In terms of other activities, I would more than give him a run for his money.
we need a United Empire takes Las Vegas. You've done Osaka. Vegas has got to be next on the cards. But speaking of Japan, like I said, I've been able to visit Japan a few times for New Japan shows over the years. It's my favorite place in the world. I'm constantly jealous seeing guys like yourself and all the other wrestlers posting their pictures and videos on social media because it just makes me jealous. I want to get back over there. But September was your first trip to Japan when you debuted. At least for wrestling purposes, according to Cage Match. How have you found the country? What have been your favorite parts of Japan so far? Especially because you get to go so many places and see so many things that your average tourist like myself necessarily wouldn't.
So Japan is an incredible place. Shall we say, I don't get on with most people. I'm somewhat a socially, I wouldn't say awkward, socially intolerant human being. People out here act in a way that benefits society as a whole rather than the individual. It's the way that everyone is taught, it's the way that everyone is brought up. The culture out here is very much about the collective rather than the individual. And that is something that I can absolutely get behind. The politeness levels is off the charts. As a Englishman, I have to try to out-polite everyone here, which interesting exchanges. It's a truly remarkable place. I remember we were traveling. I do not know names of places because I am so much is stored in my head. I cannot remember figures. But we were traveling near Mount Fuji and stopped at a rest stop, the private bus stopped, and just looking out and seeing the stark contrast from Sudabashi in Tokyo, which is one of my favorite places, being that close to somewhere like the Tokyo Dome, be able to see it every day and have that visualization of what can happen. Changing that with its megalithic structures in place, these buildings that, for someone who has a acute, I wouldn't say fear, healthy respect of heights and fervent fear of hitting the ground from said height, they are huge, tall buildings everywhere. And going from that to seeing Mount Fuji stretching into the fog in the sky, and seeing how lush, verdant, and green the surrounding forests are to that mountain, is just every day is something new and beautiful in its own way to see out here. And I could not stress enough how, if you have the opportunity to come to Japan, you owe it to yourself to do so, because it will enrich your life.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite things, is the dichotomy of it, in that you'll be in a hustling, bustling place, big lights, big buildings everywhere, and you just take a side road and, just take a little path to the side, and suddenly you're in a quite peaceful, tranquil temple or a little park. Yeah, there's truly nothing else like it. I'm very jealous that you're there right now. There alone. How often you'll be going back? Yeah, hopefully. I'll try and make Wrestle Kingdom work. But you've really quickly endeared yourself to the Japanese audience as well. You mentioned getting recognized straight away on the streets after you was on TV just that one time. But whether it be your in-ring introductions, or as a manager, or as a wrestler, often coming up short to the more intimidating members of the roster, should we say? Or helping level the playing field against House of Torture, like you've done during this tournament. What do you credit becoming so popular and just so endeared to the Japanese audience so quickly to? Because it's happened really quickly for you.
It definitely happened much quicker than I had any idea it would. So I've tried to make it abundantly clear, through Twitter, through everything. So being able to communicate with people is just one of the fundamentals of, again, being a human being, let alone being a wrestler. So learning some core basic Japanese through Duolingo, learning how to tweet slowly through translations apps such as Google Translate or DeepL, and then combining that with some knowledge of Japanese, like using Boku rather than Watashi when I'm talking about myself. It's enabled me to say what I want to say to the people out here in a way that will not be misunderstood. But I've tried to make it abundantly clear from day one, I'm a person at heart. So in England, everybody, you've been there. I do not get a warm welcome from people. And I attribute that personally due to people misunderstanding me and providing me with a rude reaction, to which I am more than willing to be back. If people give me negative energy, I will give them back negative energy 1,000-fold, because I'm no more irritating than anyone has any right to be. However, when I came out here, aside from Taguchi, who said I looked like I belonged in a horror movie, which was slightly rude of him, all I said in response to that was, I don't want to be scary. I'd rather be thought of as cute. And to me, that means being able to assist my friends and my allies in whatever way I can possibly help them. Made that abundantly clear from day one. People out here latched onto that idea, seem to view that as a novel approach of saying cute, but it's an idea that has resonated with more than one person out here, of being able to be whatever help you can for your friends, regardless of personal cost. And I feel that's my main goal, is as a support to the greatest wrestlers ever to exist. Now, I feel privileged and honored to be able to be that part, to be able to help them in terms of tactical analysis, in order to help them in terms of just being there as someone to talk to that has a relatively interesting depth of knowledge about various things. Truly, this is like, I love wrestling, and that cannot be stated enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a lot of that English style.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I am a fervent believer and supporter of. I admire Yave, Mexican style submission wrestling. I love combining Yave with English to see what works and what doesn't. The old catch style is fascinating to me. That's my wrestling that I love. Obviously, there are so many different styles, but that's what I love inside and what I want to give to the world, if I can. Obviously, physically, I am less imposing than a lot of other wrestlers. Mentally, I wouldn't care to comment, but I like testing people a lot, and that's fun for me. So I enjoy doing that. But it's, sorry.
No. I was going to say, well, you've said it yourself that you are content playing a supporting role. And you are, as much as you are a wrestler, you are often a manager in the matches and playing more of a managerial role on the outside. Do you have any inspirations for your role as a manager? Is there anybody, from history that you look to and not steal from them, but you take just inspiration from any of the managers of years past?
So managers within wrestling, not so much. Everyone has a unique voice that they can contribute to the world, and find if you are too inspired by sources, your own voice gets diluted. The way I like to look at things is, what am I bringing to the table that no one else can? What are my specialties that I can help people with, rather than should I carry a tennis racket to the ring?
Yeah.
So I'm very much a believer in the whole of the United Empire. We have this unspoken rule, which now and then may be broken if it is broken by the other team first, that there will be no outside interference in any of the matches. Again, you're looking at the top of the top of the top of the top of the top level elite athletes, elite combatants in this sport. So why would any of us sully these matches with cheating to help people win? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every single member of the United Empire is good enough to do it on their own, no matter the circumstances, no matter the match. Like, there is so much talent that it cannot be ignored, that any match, that on any given night, anybody in the United Empire could beat any other wrestler in the world. So doing a House of Torture, for example, and running in with wrenches, chairs, knives, guns, whatever. It's just, I mean, I saw a match today with the House of Torture versus Suzuki. I definitely would have bought a knife and gun if I was those. But, that's just me. Yeah, sullying that reputation that the United Empire will be growing of being just the best. Why would we do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a very important part of my managerial style when it comes to the United Empire. Then looking at inspiration from figures in history who have achieved great success, Alexander the Great, William the Conqueror, delving into history to find why things worked the way they worked in times of military strategy. So yeah, learning from examples in history is where I'd say my managerial style lies.
I didn't expect Alexander the Great to be brought up during a wrestling interview, but here we are. But you do have a big feud going on yourself. It's not in the ring. Maybe one day it will enter the ring, and we'll all be very surprised. But there's a certain Kevin Kelly who doesn't hide his disdain for you whenever you are on the screen and he is on commentary.
Mhm.
What exactly is Kevin Kelly's beef with you? He's got a great disdain for you.
So Kevin Kelly is well, he is a phenomenal commentator. Nobody can take that away from
Hmm.
him. He has been all over the gaff. He's been with companies in America, companies in Japan, probably companies in every small part of the world. Greenland, probably. I'm sure there was an Icelandic promotion that brought him in at some point. Wherever there's wrestling, Kevin Kelly has been, and he's witnessed a great deal of wrestling, and he
Hmm.
has his own personal views on how wrestling should be, which is fantastic for him. He doesn't necessarily understand what I'm doing, and that's fine. He doesn't have to. Nobody
Hmm.
does. If you do, you do. That's great. But Kevin is, shall we say, somewhat biased against me, I feel. Um, I don't have any animosity against that four-eyed twat. But you know, it is what it is. He wants to start this propaganda that my parents flew in for me, the world class talent, which is true.
Hmm.
But if you're in a position to do so, and you have the fortune, the fortunate circumstances to be able to bring in great wrestlers in order to teach you technical aspects of the craft that no one else could, and you yourself had the ability to do that and to take advantage of your fortunate circumstances in order to better yourself as a competitor, as a mind in wrestling, would you not do the same?
Of course, yes. Everyone would.
Like, for some reason, that's something that Kevin has really honed in on. Like, oh, what a jerk. How dare he do this when other people couldn't? Like, I had the fortune, I was lucky enough to be able to do this. Of course, I'm going to do this. Like, yeah, I don't understand his animosity towards me outside of a feeling that I have an unfair advantage just based on the circumstances of my birth, which I feel sad for him to be hung up about that. But, that's at the end of the day, his cross to bear and not mine. So,
Well, his fellow commentator, fellow Brit, of course, Chris Charlton. I think looking on Twitter, you two seem to get along a lot better than you and Kevin get along. You've done lots of commentary for Rev Pro over the years as well. Do you think a time comes when we see a three-man booth, maybe you joining Kevin and Chris for some special commentary?
I like to think of myself as a versatile man.
Hmm.
I think my track record shows that. If there is the opportunity to join on board for commentary, to give my unique voice and perspective on what's occurring in the ring, sure, that would be lovely. I mean, I saw today in the Japanese booth, they let Shingo on there, so
Hmm.
they'll let just about anybody on commentary. Why not? I'll say that. Why not?
Well, even if it's not commentary, your introductions as a ring announcer, tremendous at the very least. Is Makoto Abe, the Japanese ring announcer, is he concerned that you're coming for his job at all?
I've had a few conversations with Abe. He very much appreciates the sonorous tone of my voice, which I respect him immensely as a ring announcer. He has incredible, incredible talent at what he does. And me coming down to introduce the United Empire is in no way a slight on his ability to do his job at the highest of levels. I just feel that it is right for me to be there supporting the United Empire in the ways that I can. So I like to view it as every now and then I get to give Abe a short respite from straining his voice, let him have a few seconds of recovery before blasting into it again. Because people who are vocal experts will tell you it's not easy doing that night after night after night after night. And so, if I can help extend his career even by one day, I will feel that I've done a useful service here.
That's a lot. That's a lot more, much more of a wholesome response than I was expecting. But I mentioned it earlier. Whilst Great Khan was in the UK, Rev Pro, he was part of your faction, the Legion. And recently there was another New Japan young lion, who was part of the Legion, Yota Tsuji. He joined begrudgingly at first, but he kind of came into his own, really relished being part of the group. He's now off to Mexico, enjoying life in a CMLL. What happens when Tsuji returns to Japan, given that relationship with you and the Legion? Does he have an invitation to the United Empire?
So let me make this very clear. As a businessman, separate from me as a wrestler, I like to keep my wrestling, my business, to distinct, separate things. The Legion for me is part of business. It's allowed me to gain some revenue I would not otherwise have had. It's been very lucrative for me at times, and it's also been very personally rewarding in terms of seeing talent develop in the way that I feel they should be developing. And I am thrilled. I'm thrilled that Yota Tsuji joined the Legion, albeit he had to be forced into that situation to begin with. But he did, after conversation and conversation, start to understand where I was coming from as a person and where I was trying to get him to be, and that I was looking out for his best interests, which is why, obviously, we won't talk about a certain son of Red Shoes, because it's a whole other kettle of fish. But he saw how I personally felt there may have been some nepotism in the Young Lion program at points, and I don't agree with that. I'm very much not a man of principle, shall we say, but I very much believe that every single person has in themselves the ability to do whatever they want to do, and to do it at as high a level as they can achieve or want to achieve. And seeing some people have unfair advantages due to their family. Yes, this does sound somewhat like, flying in people to train us. And that's a slightly different scenario when you're meant to be in the same position at the same job, like being a young lion in New Japan. Everyone should be on a level playing field there. There should be no favoritism. There should be no nepotism. If you're going through the strict, structured discipline, everything needs to be fair, or it just doesn't work. And I feel that at points that was threatened. I made that point to Tsuji, and at the end of the day, he may or may not have agreed with me. But having seen him develop in the Legion has been really wonderful for me. And I'm thrilled that he's able to go to CMLL. I know that that's where he really, his heart's desire was. He loves the lucha style. I was fortunate enough to be able to show him a few Yave influence techniques, which he picked up without hesitation. Should he come back to Japan, his contract with the Legion will be not necessarily over, but under suspension. Like Great Khan, while he's in Japan, he's still fully welcome to be a part of the Legion at any time he so chooses. He knows this, I know this. It's an open invitation. Anytime he chooses to be back in the Legion, he's more than welcome. The same will apply to Yota Tsuji. He will be more than welcome to be back in the Legion. However, I'm not going to force him in any direction in Japan. Just like I didn't do anything with Great Khan, I set up an opportunity perhaps for him, or set up a meeting at the very least. But it was entirely his decision what he chose to do. I'm not going to force people into this one way or another. I'm not going to try to unduly influence them. Whatever is good for Yota Tsuji is good for Yota Tsuji, and I will be more than happy to see him develop in whatever way he does. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think he's a talented man. His musical talent also, as well as his wrestling talent. I was fortunate enough to see some of that. But I think he's great. And should our paths cross again as allies, that would be wonderful. Should our paths cross as rivals, then hey, that's what it is. We'll settle that when it comes to it.
I'm glad he's in Mexico as well. He would constantly say in his Japanese backstage comments, "I want to go Mexican excursion. I want to go Mexican excursion." And then the poor bugger ended up in Portsmouth. I was devastated for him. But at least he's there now.
Yeah. So I think if you ask him, I hope, I no one knows anyone else's mind, but I hope he feels that his time in England has enriched his experience.
Yeah, no, he was such a tremendous guy at the Rev Pro shows. He was such a great part of it. It's wonderful the relationship in general that I get to see all these young lions develop in front of my eyes at the York Hall and 229, every few months. But speaking of Rev Pro, especially yourself, I mentioned at the top, the first time I saw you wrestle was over 7 years ago now. You've been wrestling for Rev Pro before that, and I'm sure other promotions before that. You're mostly known for Rev Pro in the UK. But are there any UK independent wrestlers on the scene at the moment that you would like to see compete in New Japan? They don't have to join the United Empire. They don't have to be a friend or foe of the United Empire, but just from a personal view, people that you think that could be great for New Japan that are on the UK scene.
So the issue with the UK scene is there is so much good talent there. How do you even just start naming a few? If I start naming names, I'll forget names and I'll leave people out that genuinely should be on there. From a personal standpoint, I'd love to see James Castle be out here. I think he deserved to be wrestling in Japan years ago. He was ready. He was, he should have had opportunities. It's frustrating that wrestling in England is such that there are very few opportunities for people. He definitely should be out here. Michael Oku, as much as I hate him, he has shown time and time again that he's able to step up in big matches. There should be a place here. Dan Maloney, another fantastic name. Yeah. Like Dan Maloney versus Ishii, how like
the match with Gabriel Kidd at Royal Quest. Well, it just shows you everything you need to know about the man.
Like there are so many people in England that deserve to be here, and it is it's painful to me that they aren't. There's so many talented ladies as well that should be here. Like some of them have been, which is great. They deserve to be here month in, month out, competing at the highest level with the lifestyle that comes with that. There are so many names. Even just underrated tag teams in the UK. There are so many of them. The lads from where even is that place? Wrestle League was there. Dover Court. I forget the name of the place, but there's two lads called the Lads. They're a great tag team. They hide their ability well, but they are better here. The Brothers Orr from down Doncaster way. Maybe the wrong word. I forget the name of towns so near Weymouth, that place.
Right, yeah.
Brothers Orr from around that area, they're fantastic. And then people like Dan McGee, people like Mad Kurt, people like Rob Lias, people like Kenneth Halfpenny and Sean Jackson. There are so many people that deserve is such a hard word, because life is unfair. The whole verse is a cold and uncaring place, and that is a positive relief to me because it means that anything bad that happens to you, you don't actually deserve. But in terms of deservedness, there are too many people in the UK that work too hard for too little to not be afforded the opportunities that they so justly deserve. I cannot express how much it means in the UK. There are so many things that people deserve there that they do not get, which they should have, and it hurts me. But yeah, those are just a few of the names.
Well, I don't know if Japan would be ready for Mad Kurt.
I mean,
that's one name I would have never expected.
Listen, there are strange sights to be had out here, and you fit.
All right, Gideon. I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions to wrap things up. So you can answer these as quickly or as long form as you like. Some are obvious, some a bit more fun. What was the first wrestling match you can remember watching?
Bret Hart versus the Mountie.
What is your favorite film?
Oh Christ, that depends on the day. I'm a big fan of Enemy at the Gate.
If you could have any song be your entrance music, what would you pick?
Oh Jesus. Okay. Any song, just at
Any
all.
song, whatever you want. Yeah. Any artist, any year, whoever you want. Want to come back to it?
I think at the moment, my musical tastes are far too eclectic. I'd love to come out to something by Muse. I think they're a fantastic band. Their energy levels are right. But right now, it would probably be "Gimme Chocolate" by Baby Metal. That song has been in my head repeatedly for a long time now. But yes.
Who is your all-time favorite wrestler?
Aside from myself, Great-O-Khan.
I love that. I love that answer. Again, just speaking to Will Ospreay in that interview, the love he had for Great-O-Khan, it's amazing to see this outpouring love that this man is getting. I've seen on your Twitter that you've been diving into some manga whilst in Japan. I think you've become friends with one of the mangakas, the author, the writer. Do you have a favorite anime or manga?
I'm a big fan of Madoka Magica. There's a great short series that is easy to pick up and watch. I can never remember the name of it, but the volleyball one, fantastic. Spy X Family is very good at the moment. Made in Abyss is haunting. It depends on what you're looking for. There is fantastic anime. There is a whole, just again, a different medium for storytelling, which is as thought-provoking as it could be. But yes, Madoka Magica would be my favorite.
What's something outside of wrestling that you're really passionate about?
Passionate is such a strong term.
Okay, a weaker form of passionate, a word that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's justice is such a thing to say for that. But no, I very much believe in fair opportunities for everyone. I am angry about a lot of things that I shouldn't be angry about, which cannot be helped. I'm a big fan of my daughter. She's wonderful. Very passionate about that.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That shouldn't have been a struggle.
Well, like passion is such a multi-layered thing. I love my music as well. Love playing the drums, love playing piano. I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a musical environment, so you name it, I can probably play it. Not, but I can probably play it.
If there was a Gideon Grey Hollywood film, who would you want to play you?
Myself, I'd need the money.
when in Japan, oh yeah, go on. No, go on. Aside from yourself,
I'd probably say a younger Matt Damon.
Oh yeah, I can see that. That'd be great. I know you've only been there a few months now, but you've been spending a lot of time there. But when in Japan, what is the one thing from England you can't live without?
Well, fortunately, I realised recently I could do this. Again, I'm a stickler for law and order, so there was some confusion as to whether I could bring tea bags into Japan, and finding that milk. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the rules and regulations until I saw this last time. But finding milk in convenience stores has been a revelation as well. So yeah, Yorkshire tea, bringing that out with me has been such a help for my mental state this time. That's been wonderful. So yeah, tea would be my stereotypical and real answer.
No, I don't drink tea. My fiance's the same. Literally, she bought like a whole goodie bag worth of tea bags, and she can't go over the fact that they have hot vending machines, and obviously you can get a hot can of tea out of a vending machine. It's the one reason I can get her to go back purely for the vending machines.
The vending machines are fantastic. If you ever get the opportunity to try the cans of corn soup, you absolutely should. But the coffee is great from them. The tea is it's adequate,
Not up
shall
to
we say.
not up to British standards.
Not completely up to British standards. They add a lot of sweetener to it, but
Well,
still
it's not.
tea. So
It's better than nothing. Gideon, thanks so much for doing this interview. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and doing this. This has been an absolute blast. A lot more wholesome than I was expecting at times as well.
well, I'm glad to hear that. But thank you very much for the opportunity to come on. Yeah, it's been eye-opening, shall we say.
If you're not already following Gideon on Twitter, he is at Lord Gideon Grey to keep up with his antics in Japan, and of course check him out on New Japan World, supporting the United Empire. Please be sure to follow Wrestle In on Twitter at Wrestle In INN. That was an interview with Gideon Grey. We are Wrestle In, and now we're out.